The latest stats on net migration in Britain were released this morning, with the new 2023 figure of 685,000 falling 10% from the previous year's record high. However, it must be said that last year's numbers were rounded up, so there we go. But despite that fall, the number of foreign workers arriving from outside the EU increased by more than 50%. So I've got a bit of a nationality breakdown for you here. So apparently, Indians topped the table for the number of non-EU nationals arriving in the country long term. We've got about 250,000 of them. Nigeria as well, as you can see. Pakistan, China and Zimbabwe rounding off the top five, all right? So arrivals from India, Nigeria and Pakistan apparently made up a majority of those granted visas to work in the UK as well. So there's quite a lot at play there, to be honest with you, and quite astonishing numbers, which you'll have just seen on your screen. So, whilst you'd expect these findings to shock those on the political right, even Yvette Cooper is slamming them as a sure sign of government failure.
Well, in fact, what the figures show is over the last year compared to the previous year, there's actually been around a 50% increase in work migration. And what that reflects at the heart of it, I think, is a failure on both the economy and on immigration, because there's been no action to tackle the serious skills shortages. What you've seen, for example, is a big increase in engineering visas at the same time as engineering apprenticeships have halved. Well, you know, there's a link between those things, and that's what I mean about the failures around both the economy and the immigration system. Unless you tackle the skills shortages, unless you make sure we've got proper skills and training here in the UK, that's why we're just going to have really chaos in the system. So we need a properly managed and controlled immigration and asylum system, so the system is fair, so that we make sure that we obviously benefit from the international talent and investment that our country will always need, but so we also have rules properly being enforced, which again, they're not at the moment.
Right, well, I now welcome Kay Marsh, a migrant support coordinator for the pro-migrants' rights charity Samfire. Look, thank you very much, Kay. Great to have you on the show. When we have a little look at the demographics, we see a rapid demographic change that many people think will change Britain forever. Is that a good thing?
Well, if it's positive change, then yeah, certainly. I think British values and British culture is built on diversity and on multiculturalism, isn't it? As most cultures are. I think this sort of fallacy that it's eroding British culture is just more sensationalism, isn't it? To instill fear and prejudice.
I mean, is it though? I mean, is it actually though? Because if you have a look at a lot of people, let's just say, OK, 250,000 people from India, we've got 83,000 people from Pakistan, we've got 33,000 of Bangladeshis, 21,000 Sri Lankans. Every single person in the world knows that they have a radically different culture, by and large, than Western culture, OK? And there's a huge amount of reasons for that. So if you do import a lot of those people, it would stand to reason, would bring that culture with them. So is that a good thing?
We have elements of different cultures built into our British culture, and we, you know, the food we eat, the music we listen to, everything we do is built on multiculturalism. I mean, do you personally feel like your British culture is being eroded? Do you feel like you are stopped from living a British life due to people living in this country?
I think a lot of people feel as though the area that they live in has changed significantly in the last 20 years. And could I just put it to you as well that whilst we might have nice things like a more varied diet and a more rich music industry, we do also have a rise in sectarian violence and an increase in honour-based violence as well. And you can't really ignore that, can you?
Yes, but you're picking out specific things from certain cultures, but we have crimes and violence as a massive problem within our own British culture. So crime, violence and that type of thing has less to do with where somebody is from and more to do with what sort of a person they are. Do you know what I mean? If somebody is not intrinsically bad because they come from a different country.
I'm not saying they're intrinsically bad, and I'm not saying that, but sometimes they might bring their own issues with them, like we saw where we had Eritreans clashing on the streets in London recently because, unfortunately, we had helped to import both sides of a civil war that was going on there. So, I mean, that stuff does exist, doesn't it?
Well, of course it does, but so does issues in our own culture. Do you know what I mean? Those things are always going to exist. And all of these issues stem from mismanagement of British systems. Do you know what I mean? The migration thing is only an issue because it's been mismanaged. Okay, so the legal migration issue is because of failed attempts to solve the domestic labour shortages in the UK by the Tory government. Do you know what I mean? The crime and the violence is failing through the policing system and security system in this country. Do you know what I mean? Those are the things we need to look at. We need to stop saying, oh, foreign people are bad, because I just simply
I don't think anyone's saying that, apart from, and I do genuinely mean that with absolute respect. I think you like to say that loads of people say that, whereas actually really what I'm talking about is the idea that 1.2 million people arrived in Britain last year, and yes, OK, absolutely, I agree with you. Things could and should have been managed better. And yes, absolutely, we should be doing more to fill our own labour shortages. There's no question of that. But it is always going to be incredibly difficult to absorb 1.2 million people from hugely different cultures. Anyone would struggle to do that. And do you not think that maybe there is a question to have a little bit of a pause on certain things? Or are you happy with this level of numbers?
Everything needs to be re-looked at. Do you know what I mean? These people are here because we've allowed them to be here. This is legal migration. These are people we have given a visa or a route to. So, the problem isn't with the people arriving here, it's with the systems, as I said.
Fair enough.
Government mismanagement.
All right, look, thank you very, very much. Great to chat to you. As Migrant Support Co-Ordinator, easy for me to say that, for Some 5K Marsh. Thank you very much.